Hey everybody, this is Russ from Retro Game Core. Today I want to show off a new Android app called PlayTranslate, which will translate your games on the fly. And the concept is very simple. It's an overlay that will run while you're playing a game, and it'll translate up to 21 different languages as of making this video, but then translate them into up to 59. And there are a lot of benefits to this app. The first being that there were many games that never left Japan in the first place, and if they don't have a fan-based translation patch, then this might be the best way to play them now. And of course, there are many non-English gamers out there too who would prefer to play in their native tongue as well. And the best part about this free and open source app is that it also works offline, so you don't need to be connected to the internet to do the translations. Now, this app is not the only way to play translated games. One of the more popular options, and probably the best one, would be to use fan translations. Over the years, there have been countless people who have translated over beloved games, especially role-playing games, and it's pretty easy to find these patches. So if there is a Japanese game in particular that you're hoping to play, I would recommend Googling the name of it plus the word patch or translation and seeing if there are any patches out there. Most of these patches will be using what they call an X-Delta patch file, and so you'll need to find that file and then use an app like Delta Patcher to install it. I'll leave a link to this Delta Patcher app as well, which has a nice user interface and it works on both Windows and Mac. And essentially what you'll do here is you'll make an additional copy of the original ROM file, but with the patch embedded into it, which will automatically translate the game for you. And the reason why this is usually the best way to play a game is because those who make the translation spend a lot of time making sure they get everything right, including capturing the original spirit of that game. The app that we're using today is not going to be able to capture that same spirit. It's more like a dictionary translation, which means that you'll probably be able to understand what's going on here, but it's not going to be the same thing. If you're going to be playing a game in RetroArch, then another option is to use their built-in AI service. Now, this service doesn't actually use AI as we understand it today. In fact, the name of this is from well before the AI boom, but it's really just a machine translation. The drawback of this one is that it requires you to host your own translation service, like on a home server, and then you would connect to that via RetroArch. And so I think that's a little bit too advanced of a topic, and of course, it's also limited to the RetroArch app itself. The PlayTranslate app that we're looking at here today will work on anything, not just games, but anything showing on your screen in a foreign language. Let's go ahead and start with the installation. It's an Android app, so you'll need a phone or a tablet or an Android handheld like this one right here, which is my Odin 2 Portal. I'll leave a link to their GitHub page down below, but once you're here, just go down to the Releases tab, and as of making this video, it's at version 2.0, but I'm sure it'll get updated even more. Scroll down a bit until you get to the Assets section and then click on the PlayTranslate APK. It'll then download it, and then once it's done, you can tap on it to actually install. It'll ask, do you really want to do this? We're going to hit, yeah, man, I want to do it. Once you've got it installed, go ahead and hit open, and that'll take you to the front page. So first thing, it's going to ask you what game language are you planning on translating. Now you can have multiple, but you can see from here there are 21 different options, and I'm going to pick Japanese right here. From there, it'll download and load your source language, and then you want to pick your target language, which in my case is English. After that, it's going to ask for notifications. I'm going to grant it permissions. And then this one is the important one. You need to enable accessibility so that it can work over other apps. We're going to open this one up and then scroll down until you find your app, and it should be somewhere near the top. So I'm going to click on it here, and then you just want to make sure you turn it on. It's going to give you a warning that it's going to be able to see everything you're doing on the other apps, which obviously is what we needed to do. And then we'll hit allow. There's an option down below to turn on a shortcut of the app, and you can see it right over here on the side if you wanted that. But you can see right here, there actually is its own shortcut, and so we don't need to have that one on. And really, that's about it when it comes to installations. Let's go ahead and back out of this and get back to our main page and start up a game. Let's start with the WonderSwan and WonderSwan Color. This game is called Mega Man and Forte. The entire lineup here was mostly all just Japanese releases. Very few of these games were in English, and not many of them have been patched either. I actually have a WonderSwan Color. It's a really unique device. It's not backlit. It's really hard to actually read. It's made by the same person that made the Game Boy DMG. But yeah, unfortunately, all these games are in Japanese, so I have not been able to play it that much, but still a really neat device. So here we are on just a screen that has some Japanese at the top. I'm assuming this is a character select screen, but maybe you want to know for sure. So you could use the PlayTranslate app like this. We've got a couple different options. The first is just to auto-translate. This is the easiest option. So when you tap tap on this, it's just going to automatically translate anything that it sees on the screen. And so this one says, please help me with the character, which I assume just means, please select your character. And so, like I said, the translations are not going to be perfect. And so most of this game can be played without any sort of translation. After all, it's just a Mega Man game. But say you were to press start and you've got a bunch of different options here, you can see that it will give you a translation on the fly. I'm not sure what even the items means right here, but as we go through the rest of them, it'll say other things like there's nothing here. So this obviously is blank or something along those lines. Regardless, it's a quick way to look through some of these menus if you're trying to understand what something might mean. Here's another game that's a bit more text heavy, so we can get a better idea of how this is going to work. Once again, we can just go through here and select Auto Translate, and it'll translate everything on the fly. However, another option that you could do, if you know there's going to be a specific spot where you want to make sure that it's translated, you can use the other one, which is a capture region. So this allows you to move it around and resize it. Say you're looking for a specific word or a phrase, and then you can translate it like that. And for me personally, I don't really use the region part. I like to just translate the whole page on the fly, so you can just kind of choose between them. Now this game actually has its own fan translation, so you could always just get a patched version of the game, but it is nice to be able to see these as an option as you're playing something. And again, I do think the patch versions are going to look a little bit better, but either way, let's try out a couple other different games so you can get an idea of how this is going to work. So moving over to my Odin 3, I actually loaded up a bunch of different WonderSwan color games. And so, yeah, we can also test these ones out as well. It's going to be very similar to the original WonderSwan, but obviously going to be in color. And I think it really shines when it comes to role-playing games, those that were a bit more text-heavy. Sometimes the translations aren't perfect, but you might be surprised how well they do. And like I mentioned before, it does work offline, which is really super cool. Now, beyond just translating the game on the fly, there are some other features to this app, especially if you're a language learner, which is going to be really handy. So if we go into here, and then we select the settings cog, it'll actually bring up some additional options. For example, under the overlay mode, they have the translation, which we've been doing, but they also have furigana. So furigana is a simplified version of kanji. It's usually in hiragana or katakana, and that's going to make it a little bit easier. If you are learning Japanese, but you don't want to learn all the kanji, this will help you along the way. You can also set up hotkeys. This is really interesting. So you could read it in Japanese or whatever language you're playing in, and then you can choose to use the hotkey when you can't figure it out on your own. So that'll help you if you are trying to learn the language. In this example, I've got it set up for L3 and R3, so I can just click on those both at the same time and it'll translate on the fly. So you could use that instead of the auto translate function. They also have the ability to use what they call Deep L. This is a deep language learning model, but it does require you to sign up. I think you have to give a credit card. It's free, but there's going to have a limitation of how many calls you can do. So this is totally optional, and it's not something that I did, but that will give you likely a better translation. You can also set it up with an app called Anki Droid. So Anki is a flashcard service. Anki means memorize in Japanese. And so this is something you could do as well. Again, if you're learning the language, you can actually have these words exported to a flashcard so you could refer to them later. Beyond that, we've got some UI options, so you can change it from dark mode to light mode and so on, and then also the accent color. And then finally, down below, you can join their Discord if you want to discuss it more. You can export logs in case you run into any issues, and then you can donate to the creator of this app as well. So going back to this game, which is an Arc the Lad game on WonderSwan Color, I can just, instead of having the auto translate on or setting it to a specific region, I can just press L3 and R3, and then it'll start the translation like that. As soon as I let go, it'll go away as well. So of course you could try all sorts of different button combinations, but that's the one that works the best for me. And I gotta say, if you've got a dual screen device like the AYN Thor, this is where it really shines because it'll work in dual screen mode. I think that the developer must have a Thor because it works seamlessly. So let's use PlayStation 2 as our example this time around. We're gonna play Dragon Quest V. Now this is a game that originally came out on the Super Famicom or Super Nintendo back in the day, but they remade it on the PS2. It's a really nice game. And I imagine there's probably a fan translation of this one as well, but again, we can just open up the PlayTranslate app here, and here we've got a couple different options. We can just hit the auto button on the bottom. It's just going to do an auto translate. And what I love about this is that it will also show you the Japanese and the English at the same time. They've also got a full-on button that says translate full screen, so you can just tap on that and it'll translate at any time as well, instead of using the auto mode. So it'll really be up to you, but I like the ability to change things out. We can also make specific translation regions like we did before. There's a little button for that too. And so I think this is a great way to play a game. You could play it in Japanese, and then you could tap on the translate button when you maybe don't understand what's going on, and you can see it there. Or of course, you can just tap the auto button and it'll translate anytime it sees anything happen on the screen. Let's give one more example. This is Sakura Wars, which is on the PlayStation Portable. This originally was a Sega Saturn game. It was ported over to, I think, the PC as well as Dreamcast, and eventually to PS2 as well, but only the Saturn version actually has a game translation. And the great thing about the PSP version is that it actually has both Sakura Wars 1 and 2 on here, so that's pretty awesome. And again, we can use the auto-translate function to translate any of the text that we don't understand as we're playing the game. And the nice thing is it's not going to just translate the game itself. It'll translate anything it sees on the screen. So for example, right here, this is a PSP menu item. It's saying probably to set up a save file. And so we can turn this one on as well. And it'll say, yeah, there's no system file here. And so we can turn this one on. And so I think that's really handy that we can see all the system data as we're playing as well, not just the game translation itself. Now, as you're playing, you will see that the translations are not going to be perfect. For example, right here, this is the title screen. It's asking you, do we want to start a new game? But it just says from the beginning. And then it says load. We can assume that's going to be loading a game. But then it also says continuing from the interruption. I'm not really sure what that translates over. Then, of course, we have our options menu. So this could be, starting the game from scratch, loading up a specific save file, or then resuming your most recent save. And so that's probably what it is. Another really handy thing about the Thor or just this main translation window is that you can also just tap on any of these words and it'll give you the direct translation from the dictionary right there and then. And so again, if you're a language learner, this is really neat because it allows you to see how each of these phrases are formed. And like I mentioned, the translations are not going to be perfect here. If you can find a fan translation and patch that in, that's always going to be ideal. But, it takes a lot of time to do that, usually several years. And so it's really neat that we're able to do this on the fly, even if it is a bit imperfect. But one thing I have noticed about using a setup like this is that the overall pace of the game is going to be a little bit slower than you may be expecting. And that's because not only does the text have to load, but then the translation does as well. And sometimes you have to reload it because the translation isn't great. So just one thing to bear in mind is that sometimes it's just not a perfect experience. It's a bit more like playing games at a slower pace. And so really, that's what I wanted to show in this video, is just this cool new app. I'll leave it linked down below if you want to try it out. If you've got an Android-based device and you've been thinking about playing a game that's not in your native language, this might be really helpful. Let me know if you've got any questions down below, and as always, thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and we will see you next time. Happy gaming.